Welcome to this Greg's Bass Shed video. In this lesson I'm going to chat about how to change from 4-string bass over to 5-string bass, and I'm going to give you a few pointers to help you with that transition. If you watch my lessons regularly, then you'll notice that I almost exclusively use a 4-string bass guitar. Now I do this on purpose because I'm assuming that most of you actually play 4-string, but I may be wrong there, so let me know below in the comments what bass you play. Do you play a 4-string, 5-string, 6-string, and would you like to see more 5-string lessons? In my professional work, I mostly play a 5-string bass for shows and for different functions, and this is often because the key's in D or E flat and I need those low Ds and E flats. But I also love playing 4-string bass as well. So for certain gigs, songwriting gigs, I play a symphonic Queen gig, I use a 4-string for that. So it just feels like I'm kind of coming home when I get back on a 4-string. If you are thinking about transitioning to a 5-string, then make sure you watch this video all the way through, because I'm going to give you some vital tips about playing a 5-string, and I'm also going to give you some exercises to help you to practice and to get to know a 5-string bass. So you can get these exercises on a PDF, you can download those below this video, there's a link there in the description. Don't forget also to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell, and you'll get notified when any new lessons are released by me. My first tip is, if possible, keep your 4-string bass when you buy a 5-string. Now, you might not have the money to do that, and I remember when I bought my first 5-string back in 1999, I sold my 4-string and I just had one bass. And the problem is, when I played 5-string then exclusively for a couple of years, I came back to the 4-string and I really struggled actually for a few reasons, just without that low B, how to kind of, where to put your thumb again, using the open E's, just for a few reasons I struggled a bit. So if you can keep both, that's great. Also it's a bit harder to slap on a 5-string. I mean, you learn how to do it, but if you're doing a lot of slapping, then you might want to keep your 4-string and use that for slapping, for example. My second tip is to make sure you get familiar with a 5-string before you do your first gig. So don't do what I did. I went out, bought a 5-string and did a gig the next day with it. And I didn't have my 4-string, as I said, so I had to use a 5-string. Now it was a reading gig and I was playing with guys I hadn't played before, and it was a real struggle, to be honest. The biggest thing is, on the 4-string, you really use your E string as your sort of home bass, and you work out subconsciously a lot of notes from the E string. So when that changes and you've got the B on the bottom, it's really disorientating first of all. So if you can, definitely keep your 4-string as well. Then you'll be more versatile for different types of gigs as well. My third tip is to always mute the B string when you're not playing it. So I'll put a close up here. So when I'm playing the B string, I generally have my thumb on the pickup. You can have it on the body of the bass. So I'm kind of playing the B string here. And then when I move to the E string, my thumb goes onto the B string. And then when I'm playing the A, D and the G, I kind of keep my thumb like this. So you've got it on the E string and you've got it kind of over both strings, the E and the B. And that's a position you really need to get comfortable in when you're kind of plucking. Okay, so you're covering both strings there. Now that's really important, or you're just going to get loads of rumbling from that B string. It's going to really muddy your sound. So that's something to really get used to first of all. So I'm going to give you your first exercise now, and that's just to help with the right hand thumb placement. You can obviously mute with your left hand as well when you're playing, especially the D string and the G string. You want to kind of try and mute in between these open notes. So you're just going to be changing strings really. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the exercise for you first, and then I'll talk it through. Okay, so we're just using open strings. We're playing this rhythm. And we're just using that over the different strings. Now, do that nice and slowly. It doesn't matter what speed you do it at. I haven't put a metronome marking because it's just up to you. And try it with the metronome as well at different speeds. And then when we go into the last 4 bars, we're just doing it quickly. And just make sure that you pay close attention to your thumb. So this is all about what you're doing with your thumb. Okay, so then that will get you kind of used to plucking the B string as well. It's a much fatter string. It will be kind of, you need to get it all the strings at the same volume, so it will get you practicing doing that as well. Remember the exercises on the PDF, the free PDF in tab and standard notation, and on the 5 string you'll be reading an extra line of tabs, so check that out. It's quite interesting to see that. My 4th tip is to get comfortable with where the notes are on the B string. Now that might sound obvious, but loads of students come to me and they don't really know these notes. They might know where the D is or the E, but they don't really know where the other notes are. So it's really useful to kind of just start naming the notes first. You know, you can start from B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E, and then just to know F, F sharp or G flat, G, up to the G. So make sure you know all the notes up to the G and just name them like that. Okay, now for reference you can sometimes get the note from an octave above, so you might know where that E is there on the 7th fret of the A string, and you can just go down an octave and that's your E. Or again, you might have your F sharp here that you know where it is, and you can go down the octave. Okay, so that will get you to sort of learn these notes. So I'm going to give you the second exercise now, and this is using octave patterns. Now the important thing with this exercise is that you play the root note at the bottom of the octave only on the B string. Now there are some notes there like F and G, you could play those on the E string, but just for the sake of this exercise you're going to do all the bottom octave notes on the B string. So what I'm going to do now, I'll play that exercise for you and then I'll talk it through. And then you just keep repeating that exercise. So you're just doing octave patterns here. So I've given you a chord chart, just done a sample bass line on the PDF. So you're just doing this pattern, octave pattern. So I've done that on a D, and then with the chord chart I've written F next. So you need to find your F, so it's here. And then you need to find your G, so G is here. Okay, and then you need to find D, C, D. Okay, so you're kind of using a chord chart and it's helping you to work out where these root notes are. So remember, that's on the PDF, you can get that below in the description. Now my 5th and last tip is to start using lots of these notes around the E, 5th fret, F, 6th fret, G, up to G, the what's that, the 8th fret. So you're kind of using these notes a lot that you would have used down the bottom on a 4 string. You would have used the open E, the F and the G. Now the reason for this is if you use these notes here, you can start to play riffs and stay in position. You don't have to shift at all. So that's the great thing about a 5 string. If you look at people playing 5 strings, they seem to be shifting a lot less because they are. You've got a lot more notes in range, so really make use of those. So what I've done now, the 3rd exercise, I've given you an exercise that you can play in both positions. You can play it on your 4 string, or you can play it in the kind of position that you would play on the 4 string on the 5, and then you can play it in the position here on the 5 string. So I'll demonstrate that for you. So first of all, I'm going to play it down the bottom end. So we've just got C's and then F, G. You see I've got a shift there, and then I'm carrying on. And then shift again. Okay, I'm now going to play it further up the bass on the 5 string using the E and the B string. So we're playing the C, instead of C, C, F, G, we're playing it here, C, F, G. So I'll play that through now. And another way to play that is you could jump and play the G here, because it's you have got a 2-string jump to play that high to go up to the D and the G. So you could play it. You could play it there, but you're obviously shifting. So in a way, there's kind of 3 options to play exercise 3. Okay, so go through that, and it's really handy to play it down the bottom end as you would play it on the 4 string, and then play it on the 5 string. Now when you play more kind of complicated bass lines, you can just play the whole bass without shifting often on bass lines. So that's a real advantage to the 5 string, as well as getting these lower notes. So for example, if you had a kind of walking line for So What in D, you can walk all the way up there from bottom D to high D, okay? Whereas on the 4 string, obviously you haven't got that low D. Well, that's the lesson. It was short and sweet, but the idea was just to give you an introduction to playing 5 string, and hopefully I've given you the encouragement to take the plunge if you were thinking about buying a 5 string. So personally, if you're a real beginner, then I wouldn't go for a 5 string first. I'd just go for a 4 string, get comfortable on that, and then change to 5 string. And there's no time or standard really that you need to reach to change to a 5 string. It's quite fun to experiment and play around, but I wouldn't necessarily start as my first bass on a 5 string. Now, as I said, the huge advantage to having a 5 string is just getting these bottom Ds and E flats, because often it's something that might be in the key of D or E flat, you just haven't got those bottom notes, apart from if you're detuning your bass. And some tunes, if you know Stevie Ray Vaughan, for example, if you're playing one of his tunes, he would detune. So you don't need to detune your bass, you can just shift everything down. You've got those low E flats, where he would kind of play an E, but it would sound an E flat. So as you've got that advantage too. But an extra bonus tip I'm going to give you is don't overuse this B string. So when I see students they've just got the 5 string and they're just chucking these low notes in all the time. You've got them there, but don't overuse them, and don't use them just because they are there. Remember to pick up the free PDF below and to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And please let me know in the comments if you want more 5 string videos and what you thought of the video, what help you need with 5 string. I mean, I'm going to obviously keep doing loads of 4 string lessons, but if you want any of those, it's handy to let me know. If you did find this lesson useful, then you can buy me a coffee if you want to. You can see the link here on the screen, or you'll find a clickable link in the description. Remember also to check out my bass courses and books and freebies that I've got on gbshed.com. Go over there, got loads of things on there. You can buy t-shirts, you get free PDFs, so go and check that out. This is Greg from Greg's Bass Shed. I'll see you very soon in the next video. Thank you.